13th, 2025. The Hamptons, New York. A white Range Rover slams into a tree during a nor'easter storm. Behind the wheel, Alec Baldwin. His brother Stephen sits beside him as passengers. The front end of the luxury SUV is completely totaled. Within hours, Baldwin takes to Instagram with a familiar routine: damage control. "I was in a car accident this morning. I'm fine," he assures his followers, blaming a garbage truck the size of a whale for cutting him off. He thanks the East Hampton police. He promises his wife, Halyna, he'll see her in Los Angeles soon. The comment section explodes. Some offer sympathy, others are skeptical. Many simply shake their heads at yet another Baldwin headline, another incident, another chapter in what seems like an endless saga of chaos and controversy. For most people, a car crash is just an accident. Bad luck, wrong place, wrong time. But for Alec Baldwin, it's become something else entirely. Another chapter in what has been one of Hollywood's most spectacular downfalls. This is the story of a man who had it all: critical acclaim, wealth, fame, and respect, and watched it crumble piece by piece, scandal by scandal, until he became better known for his controversies than his craft. To understand how far Alec Baldwin has fallen, you need to understand how high he once stood. Born Alexander Ray Baldwin III in 1958 in Massapequa, New York, Alec was the oldest of 6 children in a Catholic family. His father was a high school teacher and football coach. His mother taught social studies. It was a middle-class upbringing that instilled in him a fierce work ethic and an even fiercer temper. He studied drama at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts and quickly made his mark in Hollywood in the 1980s. His breakthrough came in 1988 with roles in Beetlejuice and Working Girl. By 1990, he was starring opposite Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October. He was handsome, talented, and charismatic, Hollywood's golden boy. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Baldwin built a reputation as a serious actor. Glengarry Glen Ross, in 1992, showcased his intensity in an unforgettable 7-minute scene. The Departed in 2006 proved he could hold his own against Scorsese's ensemble cast. He worked with the best directors, the best actors, and commanded respect throughout the industry. The accolades piled up. An Academy Award nomination for The Cooler in 2004, 2 Emmy Awards, 3 Golden Globes, 7 Screen Actors Guild Awards. His portrayal of Jack Donaghy on NBC's 30 Rock from 2006 to 2013 became iconic, earning him critical praise and cementing his status as one of television's finest comedic actors. He was at the peak of his powers, respected, wealthy, and beloved. But behind the awards and the applause, cracks were already forming. The anger, the temper, the ego. Those who worked with him whispered about his volatility, his mood swings, his inability to accept criticism. Warning signs that would eventually define his legacy in ways his performances never could. The first major public controversy came in 2007, and it involved his own daughter. Ireland Baldwin was just 11 years old when her father left her a voicemail that would be leaked to the press and haunt him for years. In it, Baldwin called his daughter a rude, thoughtless little pig and threatened consequences for missing a scheduled phone call during his bitter custody battle with ex-wife Kim Basinger. The recording was vicious. The backlash was immediate. Baldwin issued an apology, calling it a moment that should not have happened. He blamed the stress of his custody battle, the manipulation by his ex-wife, the pressure of fame. But the damage was done. America had heard the rage in his voice, the cruelty directed at a child, his own child. It was a glimpse behind the mask, and what people saw was deeply disturbing. But this was just the beginning. Over the years, reporters, photographers, and everyday people would experience Baldwin's fury firsthand. The incidents began to pile up, each one more shocking than the last. In 2011, he was kicked off an American Airlines flight for refusing to turn off his phone while playing Words with Friends during takeoff. Instead of apologizing, he later mocked the flight attendant publicly on television, turning himself into the victim of the story. In 2013, he unleashed a homophobic tirade against a photographer outside his New York apartment, threatening physical violence and using slurs that would end most careers. The incident was caught on video. Baldwin's excuses range from claiming he said different words to suggesting his anger justified the language. He was fired from his MSNBC show, Up Late with Alec Baldwin, shortly after. The show had only been on the air for 5 episodes. In 2014, he was arrested for disorderly conduct after getting into an argument with police officers over riding his bicycle the wrong way on a New York street. Witnesses described him as belligerent and confrontational, with the officers trying to issue him a simple citation. By 2018, Baldwin was arrested again, this time for punching a man over a parking spot in Manhattan. The dispute was over a parking space Baldwin's family member had been holding for him. When another driver tried to take it, Baldwin reportedly punched the 49-year-old man in the face. Witnesses described him as out of control and completely unhinged. The pattern was undeniable. Alec Baldwin had an anger problem, and the world was watching it play out in real time, over and over again. But somehow he kept working. Hollywood forgave him. The public moved on, until the day they couldn't anymore. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared anyone for what happened on October 21st, 2021. The Bonanza Creek Ranch in New Mexico, the set of a low-budget Western called Rust. Alec Baldwin wasn't just starring in the film, he was also a producer. It was supposed to be a routine rehearsal scene. At 1:46 p.m., Baldwin drew a .45 caliber revolver and pointed it toward the camera. Director Joel Souza and cinematographer Halyna Hutchins were behind it, setting up the shot. Then Baldwin pulled the trigger. The gun fired. A live round, real ammunition that should never have been anywhere near a film set, tore through Halyna Hutchins' chest and lodged in Joel Souza's shoulder. Hutchins was airlifted to University of New Mexico Hospital. She died in the helicopter. Halyna Hutchins was 42 years old. She was a rising star in cinematography, a wife, and a mother to a 9-year-old son. Her death sent shockwaves through Hollywood and raised devastating questions. How did live ammunition get onto a film set? Who was responsible? And why was Alec Baldwin pointing a gun at someone and pulling the trigger without checking it himself? The production's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, had been hired despite concerns about her inexperience. The first assistant director, Dave Halls, handed Baldwin the gun and announced it was cold, meaning safe, but it wasn't. Baldwin's version of events would shift over time. Initially, he claimed he didn't pull the trigger at all, that the gun simply went off. This claim was later contradicted by FBI forensic testing, which concluded the gun could not have fired without the trigger being pulled. In January 2023, Baldwin was charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. The charges were dropped 3 months later due to new evidence, only to be refiled in January 2024. His trial began in July 2024 in Santa Fe. It was a media circus. Baldwin maintained his innocence, insisting he bore no responsibility because he relied on professionals to ensure the gun was safe. Then, in a stunning turn of events on July 12, 2024, the case was dismissed with prejudice after it was revealed prosecutors had withheld evidence from the defense. The judge found their conduct so egregious that Baldwin could never be tried again for Halyna Hutchins' death. Legally, Baldwin was free, but in the court of public opinion, the verdict was far less clear. Many saw him as reckless, a producer who cut corners on safety, an actor who should have checked the gun himself, a man whose negligence contributed to a woman's death. Others saw him as a scapegoat, a celebrity caught in a tragic accident caused by failures up and down the production chain. But one thing was certain: Alec Baldwin's reputation would never recover. In March 2023, Baldwin sued the Rust prosecutors and several investigators, claiming they had maliciously prosecuted him. While the criminal case had been dismissed, Baldwin was still facing multiple civil lawsuits from Halyna Hutchins' family and crew members who were traumatized by the shooting. Matthew Hutchins, Halyna's widower, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Baldwin and the Rust production in February 2022. The lawsuit alleged that Baldwin and the producers had cut corners on safety to save money, creating the conditions that led to his wife's death. The case was settled in October 2022, with terms undisclosed. As part of the settlement, Matthew Hutchins became an executive producer on Rust. and the production announced plans to complete the film. The decision was controversial. Many saw it as ghoulish, a way to profit from tragedy. But Baldwin insisted it was what Halyna would have wanted. Filming resumed in Montana in 2023, with counselors on set and enhanced safety protocols. But the cloud over the project never lifted. When Rust finally premiered at the Camera Image Film Festival in Poland in November 2024, it was met with mixed reviews and uncomfortable questions. Could you separate the art from the tragedy? Should you even try? The professional consequences have been significant. While Baldwin hasn't been entirely blacklisted, the quality and prestige of his projects have noticeably declined. The man who once worked with directors like Martin Scorsese and Tim Burton is now taking roles in forgettable independent films and straight-to-streaming projects. Endorsement deals have dried up. His once frequent hosting gigs on Saturday Night Live, where his impression of Donald Trump became a cultural phenomenon, have become rare. The industry hasn't completely abandoned him, but the distance is palpable. Perhaps most tellingly, Baldwin's own behavior suggests a man struggling with the weight of his fall from grace. His social media presence has become defensive and combative. He lashes out at critics, deletes posts after backlash, and seems increasingly isolated from the very Hollywood establishment he once dominated. In interviews, he appears bitter and resentful, which brings us back to October 13th, 2025, and that white Range Rover crumpled against a tree in the Hamptons. Baldwin walked away from that accident uninjured. He posted his Instagram video, thanked the police, and promised his wife he'd see her soon in Los Angeles. No charges were filed, no one was hurt. The garbage truck driver wasn't at fault, and the police ruled it a simple accident caused by bad weather and bad timing. In other words, this time, it really wasn't his fault. But here's what's tragic about Alec Baldwin's story. At this point, it almost doesn't matter. He's the boy who cried wolf. He's blamed everyone else for so long, deflected responsibility so many times, that even when he genuinely is just a victim of circumstance, even when it really is just bad luck, people don't believe him anymore. That's what happens when you spend decades burning bridges, attacking critics, and refusing accountability. Eventually, even when you're telling the truth, no one trusts you. Even when you're innocent, people assume the worst. Your credibility becomes as damaged as that crumpled Range Rover. Alec Baldwin is 67 years old. His career is in decline. His reputation is in tatters. A woman is dead, and whether or not he bears legal responsibility, that fact will follow him to his grave. The Range Rover that hit that tree, they can fix that. It's just a car. A few weeks in the shop, some new parts, and it'll be good as new. But Alec Baldwin's legacy? That might be totaled beyond repair, and he's not alone. Hollywood has a way of building people up, only to watch them crash down. In our next episode, we'll examine Charlie Sheen's complete collapse, from television's highest-paid actor to a very public psychological breakdown. Fame hides everything until it doesn't.